methodology isn't really working, but it's the story that's important. She went and talked to 3 different students of color, set up a documentary-style interview with them, did a beautiful voiceover about what their experience was in the school, and we didn't publish it right away because we didn't want to make a big controversy out of it, but I did send it to the superintendent. The superintendent shared it with my administration team, and then we hired a speaker to talk about these issues to the entire staff of the district, which is substantial. And it didn't go viral on YouTube, and it wasn't on CNN, but it changed a whole district of people. And when she found out that she had that effect, she felt empowered and started telling more and more and more stories in the district. And I just think that I had that moment where I was like, this is what I'm here to do. It's super important. Sorry. Tech issues. Jim, do you know what Wi-Fi I'm supposed to be on?
Yeah, Pearl Street.
Oh, PSG, yeah. Okay. All right. So similarly, like we have a teacher shortage, you may have noticed, in the educational field, and an administrator shortage, and a substitute teacher shortage. So I asked my kids, like, you know, we have to do something about this. You need to let me take a day off. I'm exhausted here, like, let's figure this out. So my one student decided to create a video about what makes our high school so special, what a beautiful place it is. So she wrote a love letter to our school. And I wish you could hear the audio, but it's narrated by a teacher, it's a beautifully written script. It chronicles every beautiful, fun, important project-based learning, sports moment, from a whole year of our school. It took her 4 months to produce. And then we sent it out to our candidates for a new principal job. And we got more candidates than we otherwise would have gotten. And all of them watched it and came to their interviews having watched it and had questions about it. We hired the one who, I think this student had a big role in her video in recruiting our new principal candidate. So I thought that was kind of cool. We have an environment where we create the morning announcements, because in every school the morning announcements are incredibly boring, right? Incredibly, it's an invitation to fall asleep every single day. And I am not telling you that students don't fall asleep during this video program, but they for sure are more interested in what's happening up here, which was all created by this kid, Anthony Kudla. He graduated last year. And he wore a different costume every single day, a different background, and brought different props, and had different hairstyles, and it was completely insane, and sometimes said inappropriate things that we had to leave out, but whatever. The problem was presented to him. Nobody listens to the morning announcements. What are we gonna do about it? I'll dress up like Elvis, I'll, do some crazy stuff. And it became super popular. People maybe paid attention to something they weren't paying attention to. So it was just like looking at a problem. This kid was unbelievable. I wish that you get kids like this in your career. Yeah, there's this Elvis costume, pretty amazing. Yeah, I don't know how you feel if you knew that I was presenting this to you guys. So it's just an example of, if you create an atmosphere where the kids are looking around them and saying, what is the problem that exists in my community? And what can I do about it? How can I use my voice to fix that problem? Is there a big problem, like racism in America? It for sure could be and should be. It can be like nobody pays attention to the morning announcements. What do you want to do about it? And not only that, what are you going to do about it? To challenge your kids to say, you are makers of change. Now, there's no test at the end of the year, but the test is how much better can you make the space around you, however big that space is. The last example I just want to show you is just the pride of my whole life right now, which is a podcast project I do every year where kids interview a mentor. They can't be their parents. It's like to push them outside the comfort zone and interview a coach or a teacher or someone like that has had an influence on their life, reflect on it, do some writing about it. and hopefully learn more about that person, and learn more about the idea that I also learned in the Buffalo State program that listening is an act of love, as teaching is an act of love, as everything we do is shot through with love. And my students in this project, like, just shined. They were amazing. They created incredible podcasts, videos, 60-minute style interviews, print products. But they wanted to do brain rot TikToks, which was like sort of new to me, and I was like, yes. Explain to me later. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it will mean something to me soon. And we created this like crazy classroom environment that Jared was in, and he can attest that it was like pretty chaotic most of the time. A lot of time I didn't know what was happening, but I was pretty sure it was going to be beautiful at the end. And yeah, it was. So it turned out. Here's like an example of the magazine that they produced, which is weirdly displayed in Canva, but it is, let's see, yeah, you can see some of them did print interviews because they didn't want to do videos. Some of them, one of them, it didn't print right, but they recreated like a 17 magazine like interview. They did like quizzes and stuff like that. I didn't tell them they did any of that. They just came up with it within the context of this project. And it was really meaningful. So it was pretty cool. This is an interview, fortunately subtitled, that one of my students in that project did with his neighbor who was in World War II in Stuttgart and was in the bombings. And she talked all about that and also about the recent loss of her husband. And it became this incredibly deep conversation where Andrew, you could just see, light bulbs and realizations and beautiful things happening inside that brain, like live in front of you. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really do anything to do that. I think that's the point that I want to make. Like, I did not give him a lesson plan to interview his neighbor who was in World War II. I think what I did was create a space where that felt possible. And that's like what I've learned early on in my teaching career. I know looking at me, you're like, don't you mean Lifetime Achievement Award? But no, actually, early career teaching award. Great. Retirement's only 26 years ago. It's really just like, it feels like bragging up here, you know, a little bit. But like the last example is what Jim was talking about. This collaboration with Global Concepts Charter School, which was an absolute disaster mess, but also incredibly beautiful. Like these kids, you know, you can see like they're kids from all over the world with different cultural traditions, different levels of everything, education, reading levels, comportment, behavior, all that stuff. Were there things happening in all the bathrooms that were not mandated by the state of New York, probably, during this time? We dealt with it in an official disciplinary way. Kevin's not here anymore, but don't worry, it's fine. But like, it was messy as a hell, but it was pretty beautiful what it came out to. Like, kids built the set with me, and we did beautiful moments, and they learned about each other's cultures, and they learn how to act, I think. I don't know, I loved it. So that's like the last thing I wanted to show. So I think with the new educators in this room, I'm gonna try to wrap it up, I'm sorry. What I think some educators better than you get wrong about the idea of teaching in a community-facing way is that somehow it's harder than teaching by the book. There's this wacky notion that it's much easier to go through like the module curriculum, which hopefully doesn't exist anymore, but like it does sort of, than it is to like look at the community around you and do something cool. It's actually much easier to teach this way than it is to teach by the book. Community-facing work is always messy, it's never subject to systematic assessment, it's never complete, it's never perfect. So the young teachers and even veteran teachers who are hesitant to step away from the structures that feel so comfortable with us, even as they deaden our souls, see this kind of work as an opportunity to have fun. It's the most fun to do this kind of work, to be a child again, to mess up, to play theater games with your kids, to take a day to read outside under a tree for no particular reason, other than that's like a perfectly worthwhile thing to do. To learn from your students and look back on a whole career-long photo book of community change. That's what I want to look back on. I want to see like these pictures and how my kids changed the communities around them. What's hard from this perspective is sticking the standard idea of education as the implication, when the idea of making it possible for students to become themselves lies so tantalizingly before us. It is easy to do. It's easy to do. I think a great relief in this profession is the near impossibility of doing it well. All or even most of the time. There may be some teachers out there, I've met a few who think they are, who are capable of this, and I applaud them, but I am not one of them. The job's impossible to do perfectly. It's imperfectible. Its imperfectibility is part of what makes it beautiful. I have story upon story of cataclysmic failure, of days when my reservoir of kindness was blocked, when the well of ideas had run dry, of my appreciation of my students' humanity was muddied by some petty drama. There have been moments when I thought to myself, maybe that landscaping would be a good idea. Escaping the land, it just sounds nice. How much does a network engineer get paid? Could have come up in my Google history. ChatGPT, what is the cost benefit of enlisting in the Peace Corps at age 43? Like, long story short, it's not a good idea. It doesn't pay off. In the end, these are just thought exercises though. I know in my bones that I will be in the classroom or whatever the classroom evolves into till the end of my career. Long before I started this job or even met Jim or Kristen, teaching wasn't something I felt called to do, but it's always been something that I know I am. At a time when it's hard to be certain about anything, it's nice to be at least 97% certain about that. I always allow a little seed of doubt. And certain about this notion, if we follow this idea of creating the right environment for students to be themselves, and let them and our community tell us what we need, we cannot possibly go wrong. Thank you guys so much for listening.